Welcome to the Saco School Committee Board Committee meeting for July 14th, 2021. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Let the record reflect that all school board members are present with the exception of School Board Member 1 and School Board Member 6. Let the record also reflect that Superintendent Ray is here. With that, move to item 2, approval of school committee meeting minutes dated June 16, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member LaFortune.
I move we approve the school committee meeting minutes dated June 16, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune, second by School Board Member Preble to approve the meeting minutes for June 16, 2021. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And moving on to item 3, any adjustments to the agenda tonight?
None.
No adjustments to the agenda. Moving on to item 4, any correspondence at this time? No correspondence at this time. Moves us to item 5, public session. Any members of the public that would like to come up and address the school board, please come forward and be heard. Please state your name and address for the record, and please speak directly into the microphone.
My name is Julie Petrin. I do not live in Saco, but I am an employee of Saco. Through the years, I've worked with great leaders, good leaders, not so good leaders, and finally, why am I still working here kind of leaders. It's sad when you start questioning yourself about leadership. On the other hand, I've been fortunate enough to work for Julie Smythe, and she is an exceptional leader. When we left the RSU, we had Carol Marcotte as our curriculum director. Carol was the gal that had the go-to attitude and got things done. Carol always lit up the building with her energy. As she began her retirement process, Julie Smythe interned for Carol and was then hired. Julie also has that electrifying energy about her, and she has brought the curriculum to a new level. Staff were excited about trying new curriculum, Rebecca Sit Spelling, Eureka Math, Handwriting Without Tears, some new literacy procedures that assisted those struggling readers, and I'm sure I've forgotten many programs that have not been mentioned. Julie Smythe was appointed Director of Pre-K while holding the Director of Curriculum position in 2018. Her office was moved from Central Office to Parks and Rec with the 2 Pre-K classes. She was expected to start up the Pre-K program as Saco was just starting to explore this new venture. The staff completed the screenings and placements. They held the open house for families with completely empty classrooms. Even these hurdles did not stop Julie. She sought out professionals across Southern Maine for information and guidance, building very strong working relationships along the way. And in 2019, the pre-K program expanded to 5 more full-day classes, and I was fortunate enough to join this amazing team. We originally started out at Toddle Inn. We were locked out by the city 2 weeks later and moved 2 more times in 6 weeks. 3 classes were at First Parish Church in the basement, 2 classes at Young School, and 2 classes back at Parks and Rec. In order to make this work, we all pitched in and even rode buses as aides to get our kids to school. Julie also rode the bus. Julie helped cover classes for pre-K when we were shorthanded. Although through all of this, she still managed to complete her work on her curriculum, her reports, grants, and still attended her meetings. As COVID became our nightmare, Julie jumped in to find out what she could do to make the online learning successful by securing IXL for math, Newsella for literacy, and other programs used throughout the district. During our time home, she worked on the possible impact of COVID and what it might have on the staff and students. No one has ever been through something like this before, and it was unprecedented. Julie was following the social emotional aspects and beginning to research workshops for staff during our time home. Taking care of yourself is the most important thing you can do for yourself. This is one of the many attributes she has blessed the Saco School Department with, as well as professional development for all. It was an extremely long 4 months of being home, but Julie still did not stop working. She felt so strongly about the emotional support of our staff that she wrote the Social Emotional Learning Resolution in April, and the school board adopted it and signed it in May of 2021. This document hangs in all the schools. Pre-K finally received the okay to move back to Toddle Inn building in June of 2020. Staff members were washing their own rooms as furniture was being delivered. We did not have access to any custodial staff. Under COVID restrictions, we screened students from the parking lot in July and rescreened in August and started in September. We were up and running with a lot of COVID changes in hand, and whatever it took, we as a team were going to make it work with Julie leading the way. Pre-K became one of the most successful buildings during COVID, and we only had a handful of close contacts and closed one room for 5 days once. With the termination of the superintendent this past April, Julie submitted her application for interim superintendent. We thought there was hope. How lucky we would be as a school district, as a community, to have Julie at the helm with as our interim superintendent. With her positivity and drive, she would honestly begin some of the healing that we so badly needed and unify our district as one. This hope is now lost. The reorganization plan is very thorough, but does not prove this plan with the termination of Julie and the hiring of the assistant superintendent will save the district money and provide the necessary curriculum support as needed for Saco. Staff across the district have already seen drastic changes to the schools in June with the cleaning of materials. Classrooms may no longer be friendly, warm, or welcoming, but seem institutionalized. This takes away from what Saco schools are known for, community. I have 1 page left, and it's going to be brief.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Julie Smythe's position as our curriculum director is now being terminated. Some school board members have said she has not been a curriculum director for 3 to 4 years, just a pre-K director. I find this difficult to swallow as I see Julie on a different level than any of you might see her. Please know Julie Smythe was never just a pre-K director. Does the community know that she was never compensated at any time for this pre-K director position? It was an expectation placed on her with hopes of failure, and that didn't happen. Julie has that can-do, go-team attitude, and she has built an extremely successful pre-K. I see this dedicated woman coming to work every day with a beautiful smile, and no matter how much it hurts, we're losing the beacon of light and inspiration. A person that actually cares about every person in this district, whether it be a staff, student, or their families. And she has been a strong leader, and she would have moved Saco to a positive direction. I hope I've been able to provide some background for people that may not know our past, present, and now what will our future bring. Please remember the Saco School Department has what I call a missed opportunity. The opportunity to bring our school system to a new level of social, emotional learning, caring, loving, and nurturing environment for all students. It is now a missed opportunity because you're letting her go. Julie will land on her feet. She'll be loved, gifted, and strong. But wherever she goes, that employer will be the luckiest of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else? Please come forward and be heard.
Hi, my name is Martha Vandalowski. I live at 1 Richards Way in Saco. I've been a teacher in the Saco school system for 38 years, but I've been teaching for 48 years. My children both went through the Saco school system. I come to you tonight with a saddened and heavy heart about your decision to eliminate the curriculum director position held by Julie Smythe. As we all know, Julie has held this position for about 9 years and has brought the Saco schools to a level in education that is exemplary. It is the curriculum director who is responsible for the staff development, which directly affects every single student in this school system. Having worked for her these past years, I have seen her passion for curriculum, for staff development, and above all, the students to have the best education possible. She works tirelessly for the Saco schools, and now 10 years later, you have decided to eliminate her position. I personally feel blindsided with your actions, and I know many other staff members and parents feel the same way. You have chosen to do this when school is out, when parents and teachers are on vacations and do not look at their emails. This community will be shocked when they hear this in September. I understand that the interim superintendent will be in charge of curriculum. How is this person going to dedicate the immense amount of time to make this happen? By doing this, I feel we are taking a giant step backwards educating the children in Saco. We just went through a pandemic. A curriculum director is more important than ever to bring the educational level back up for our students. What percentage of the interim superintendent time will be dedicated to this? Is this no longer important for the children in Saco? Julie has held 2 jobs these past 3 years. She has created the most amazing pre-K in the state. I asked you to spend 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute in her pre-K and see what goes on. There are many times when the school board addresses issues, and it's always K through 5, but I don't really hear pre-K through 5 very often. Are we not a part of the school system? It is amazing what these children are learning under her leadership. It has also been said that Julie has not been the curriculum director for the past 3 years. I don't believe this is true. She has been doing 2 jobs, curriculum and pre-K, which are 2 full-time positions. She has also been addressed by the school board as curriculum director, so I beg to differ that she has not been a curriculum director. I hope that you go forward involving staff members and parents on your decisions when you hire administrators. It is the staff who works day to day with children, whether in the classroom as a teacher, an ed tech, a secretary, a custodian, a bus driver, or a cafeteria worker. Their input is invaluable. I feel, personally, this is a very sad day in Saco for our staff who loves Julie, for the children she hugs every day, and for the parents who have come to respect Julie and rely on her for help. I ask you as a school board to please do what is best for our small community and not lose our autonomy. With all due respect, what happens in Biddeford does not mean it has to work for Saco. Eliminating the curriculum position is such a disappointment, but losing Julie is a travesty. I know I speak for many, many other staff members in Saco who feel the exact same way that I do tonight, but will not speak or come because they fear they may lose their jobs. What is Saco becoming? Are we going to be a fear-based school system or a system open to all staff members being able to have the opinion or an idea to better our students without worry their jobs will be cut? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Nicole Yanni. I live at 25 Miranda Circle. I also happen to be a ed tech for the pre-K system, and I know a couple of the board members because I have seen their children go through the program. I would like to express my concerns for the Saco school system with eliminating the curriculum director position. I understand that there is restructuring. I understand that the new assistant superintendent is supposed to take over this role. But I will remind the school board, we are coming out of a pandemic. The curriculum director has a very pivotal role in helping the community, the children, the families, the teachers. We are the tools to help them overcome these obstacles that they've encountered in the past year. And we as teachers and educators need a support system. And we have felt that support system and love from Julie Smythe, the curriculum director. We like what we have, we enjoy what we have, we know what we have. Right now, having something that you can trust going forward is such a key thing. If I have to look up and realize that I don't know that person, and I don't feel comfortable going to that person, how am I going to help when I have a question because of my little? Because I have a question of my teacher. I need to be able to feel like we're a team, we're a community, and having that position there has helped us so much, and I see so much benefit in keeping that position. I understand budget, I do, I live here. I understand that we need to restructure, that things need to change. I understand that the past is the past, and we have made so many mistakes in the past. So please, let's not make a mistake in the future. Let's help the community. Let's help our teachers. Let's help our children. I really, truly believe that, and I just wanted you to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Any other public comment this evening? Come forward and be heard.
Hello, Kevin Roach, 18 Vines Road. I think all of you. First, I want to, from the community, thank you to the school board for being in office and running for office. I think after what we went through with the pandemic and being on Zoom meetings, that it's been a very stressful time to come to this point. And I just, as a community member, want to thank you for taking on this role. And also thank you for making the needed changes that many of you were brought onto the board to move Saco forward. So that's what I'm up here to talk about. And on your agenda tonight is the formation of the school construction committee. A lot of the hard work by you guys has been done already. Now it's up to the community to come together and once and for all get the new schools into this community. It has been a travesty of what we have for buildings in this community. A travesty. People move here for the school system, but they move here for what they see at Thornton Academy. They don't move here for the trailers. They don't move here for a 100-year-old building. They don't move here for, not working AC and all that. This is a great community, and this community deserves schools. And what's been absolutely lacking when we're already on the state list is any sort of planning from the prior administration. So now's the time. The time is now to move the community forward. It's going to be a couple years before the shovel hits the ground, but we need to act yesterday. And I appreciate you guys getting this on the agenda, and I look forward to any participation that myself and other interested parties and interested citizens would join in. I don't have a kid anymore from pre-K to 8, but I'm working with the third kid theory. If I had a third kid, I really want this to come through and see future generations of kids get into these newer buildings and get to 2021 in a modern school system. Thank you very much for your work and time.
Thank you, Kevin. Any further public comment? Public comment is now closed. Moving on to item 6, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
All right, good evening. Several things to talk about as a report, and one of those is that the fiscal year has ended, and Jason's working really hard on bringing those numbers together, and I think we feel really positive about a good fund balance this year, hopefully exceeding what we had estimated in Finance Committee, and within probably about another month, Jason, we'll have a good idea of when everything's paid, having that positive fund balance, which would be able to be used for carry forward in the upcoming budget. One of the items that has become a little bit problematic is many times we come up with school policies and we look at school policies that we need to respond to certain situations, and then as we go through our policy guide, some of the state required policies aren't there. So communicated with the policy committee that I'm going to be getting a quote from Maine School Management Associations to do a thorough review of our policies to make sure that we have all required policies and that they're updated, because when in absence of policy, it puts your district in a very sticky situation. We've found several situations where we don't have required policies. Principals and directors have been doing a great job hiring new staff. The job market right now, when you get pools, they move quick. And so principals have moved, and directors have moved very quick to make sure that we have staff in positions in the fall. One of the big deadlines that will be coming up on September 29th is the application for ESSER funds, which is stimulus or recovery package number 3, is due, and that's a couple $1 million for Saco. So we'll be working towards those applications, getting those in, looking at how we use those funds in the best way to support what we have going on in the building and also support capital improvements that could go forward. Of that money, 20% of that needs to go towards learning recovery, and so we'll be looking at how we use those funds in a way that supports academic and social emotional learning. Tomorrow, I expect that we will receive some guidance from the DOE and the CDC, kind of giving us a glimpse of what the fall might look like. As many people know, the national CDC kind of put out some guidance earlier in the week, and through some of that guidance, it looks at what are local conditions for the virus, and certainly we have a variant. So we're going to have to make some decisions by mid to late August about how we will reopen schools and what those CDC recommendations are going to be. And anything that we do here will also be including our Parks and Rec into that conversation. And I've had a conversation with Ryan so that we're always on the same page moving forward, that a kid who, whatever happens during the day is similar to what the same requirements would be after hours, and Ryan's been great at that. Another real possible situation for us is on October 29th, there is the deadline to have applications in for revolving renovation funds. So anyone who may not be familiar with revolving renovations, that is a fund established by the state where you can apply for certain types of improvements within your schools up to $1 million every 5 years. Now, if a project is funded through revolving renovations, you look at what your state subsidy, local state share is. So we're about 50% here of our funding comes from the state, or 47%, whatever that number is. And if a project is approved, the state puts their percentage, that 40-some-odd%, towards the cost. The rest is picked up by the locals on a 10-year interest-free loan. So very good deal for communities. Typically those those go around roofs, ADA compliance, safety and security. And right now, $45 million is being pushed forward. So I've been in conversations with Oak Point already, which is our architect for the school, and with Mike, and we will be going out and evaluating some of the situations that make the most sense for us to move forward, put the application in, and hopefully have a situation where the state is picking up, 45, 50% of the tab on something that we would then pay interest-free. So really good deal on that if you can be successful, and I've had some success with those in the past. And then finally, we'll be talking in the update about school subsidy and the positive news that the legislature and the governor have signed off on the budget that brings 55%, which will put us in a much better spot financially to take care of some of that negative fund balance. Any questions?
Any questions for the superintendent? No questions, Superintendent Ray. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, Chair's Report.
I don't have anything.
Moving on to item 8, Staff Reports. There's none reflected in the confidentials. So we will go to the item 9, which is the Board Subcommittee Meeting Minutes. So there were subcommittee meeting minutes for the Strategic Committee in your packet. Any issues with the meeting minutes? No issues being reported. There is no old business tonight. That brings us to item 11, new business. We have item A, new hires. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston?
I move that we accept the nomination of Patricia Takis, Saco Middle School 7th grade humanities teacher, Kelsey McBee, district-wide physical therapist, Jessica Hamilton, Saco Middle School grade 6 project-based math teacher, Melanie Koss, young school kindergarten teacher, Jeremy Allen, young school special education teacher, and Rita Newman, Saco Middle School special education teacher, and issue a contract for the 2021-2022 school year.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member LaFortune. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, nobody seeking recognition, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune? School Board Member Tardif? School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. This brings us to item B, resignations. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Truman.
I move we accept the resignation of Kiev Lehman, Saco Middle School special education teacher, effective at the end of the 2020-2021 school year.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised and nobody seeking recognition, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif? Yes. School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Moving to item C, a reorganization plan. Superintendent Ray, will you be doing a presentation on this?
Trying to get that out there. Hold on just a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, just quickly before, I sent a note real quick earlier just to let the school board know that there was a slight modification to the org chart. It's a really minor one, but if you have the one from the packet, it's out of date.
School Board Member LaFortune, is this different than the one that was sent out in the updated confidentials?
That's the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
That's the
Thank
correct
you.
one. The one that was in the packet is out of date.
Okay, so as we started here and we looked at last April, one of the things that I had communication with the board was looking backwards into some of the things that happened in the past year, the real need to have an assistant superintendent on board when superintendent's not available, and when you look at operations, when you look at change in leadership, while at the same time, most school districts have an organizational chart and plan of flow, and that is a policy that is not in our packet and something that should be. In this situation, the recommendation right from the beginning in conversations with staff was to certainly look to add an assistant superintendent position that would be responsible for curriculum and other day-to-day tasks and act in the absence of the superintendent if there wasn't one. So in looking at a kind of reorganizational plan, we also wanted to have something that clearly defined reporting structure, where principals, directors, what that organizational structure would look like to bring clarity for the district. I think one of the things that we met with the leadership team on, they were looking for some real clarity, like where do things lie? Who do we go to? Who do we report to? What is the hierarchy? And that has been provided for us in this plan. Also in the plan, we have talked about that, yes, there is cost savings that we have throughout the district that we have been looking at, whether it be from shared superintendent services to reorganization to food service savings. We are looking to set a situation up where the administrative team is sharing a vision, rowing in the same direction, and moving forward. And so, based off the direction of coming up with a reorganizational plan and making sure that we have somebody in this position that can be served in absence of the superintendent, I would present to you what was in the document. We have attached a job description to that, and any comments would be appreciated.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Ray. Any questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member LaFortune?
I don't have a question per se. I actually had a very quick conversation just earlier with the superintendent about the job description, and the one question that I had, I guess, is whether or not we would be, or he would be flexible with respect to the 2-year successful experience, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, et cetera, item, just from the standpoint of there may be very good internal candidates that maybe don't have that.
Yep.
That we would not want to scare off or dissuade from applying for this position.
So anytime you write qualifications, you're looking for the ideal in a situation, but certainly not always that ideal is what comes forward in the best candidate in any situation. Obviously, the hiring committee, board, and/or superintendent would have the ability to waive some of those qualifications. I think that it's important that we have the certification of at least a superintendent or an assistant, or the ability to get that. And then certainly you can look at successful or suggested experience coming to the table in all of those. Again, the board, superintendent, through the hiring process, you're going to bring the best candidate forward that you think is best for the district to best move in the right direction.
Any further questions? School Board Member Johnston?
I think mine is more of a comment. I want to thank Kevin for bringing this question up. We had a little bit of a conversation about it, and the clarification that Superintendent Ray has just given us is very helpful. I think it gives us the ability to be more flexible and, again, to bring the best candidate forward. So thank you for that explanation.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Just a quick question related to that. So assuming that this does get adopted, when would the position be opened and posted?
So we have posted anticipated for that position, because you have a posting requirement of how many days, and then we have a policy of hiring administrative staff. And so knowing that we're moving towards the beginning of a school year and that someone could have a possible commitment to another district, our goal would be that meeting that timeline of forming the committee in the next week or so, having interviews, and hopefully when we come back here in early August or before that, if we need to have a special meeting, that we will have a candidate to present to the board.
Any further questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Truman?
I move we accept the reorganization plan as presented by the superintendent.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Tardif. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item D, school subsidy updated revenue. Superintendent Ray?
All right, so great news on school subsidy that the governor and legislature finally met the promise that voters had required them to fund schools at the 55% level, something that's been on the books for, probably 15 years now, since EPS, 20 years now, that we've never got to that. And the current budget and formula that you were working off was at 51.8%. And so in order to make that change, what happens is the local required mill rate goes down from 7.9 to 7.26, which is great news for Saco. Because what that does is that brings an extra $1.55 million in subsidy. Now, in addition to that, when we were going through the budget and we looked at the ED 279, it was noticed that we were not receiving the state reimbursement for the pre-K center. The pre-K center is a lease situation, and when you're leasing space, you have the ability to apply for the state and get $8 a square foot back. That was something that didn't get done this fall. We worked with the Department of Education. Mike and I, we got the application in, and the state granted that change for us, which brought us an additional $81,000, so that when our new subsidy comes out, we're gonna, the city of Saco will receive $1,633,458. So great day for us. So then we look at what are the uses. And in your memo, by law, there are some uses that school committees have the right to adjust things, and they have the right to make increased expenditures. What I am going to recommend the following steps for us to consider, because again, years of school committees, city councils, superintendents coming and saying, if only the state funded at 55%. And now we're here. So I think that one of the pieces that we need to avoid is just adding a bunch of stuff. The first thing that I would recommend to the group is that we currently have, on the school side, a negative fund balance, which means that over the past several years, it had spent more money than what had been appropriated, and that fund balance is at $995,000. This allows the team to start fresh, pay that off. Jason and the group have done a great job over the course of the year managing the budget with the finance committee, and you have a positive fund balance at the end of this year. So that means you're starting next year in a place where you could have the budget which you could infuse money if things like property valuation went up or the state changed things. And we know that property valuation is going to go up in Saco and in southern Maine. And what's the challenge behind that is that when you look at property valuation from a statewide level, if your community or your region is outpacing the growth by the rest of the state, it's going to wind up in a higher mill expectation here because they're assuming that your property value can carry the load. And so we know from looking at realtor reports or just reading the newspaper every day that if a house in Saco hits the market, the person might have a time to, to say yes before there's a million offers coming in. And many of those, as we can read, go for more than listing value. So we know that over the next several years, property in Saco is probably going to outpace the state, which will be challenging for us. So this gives us a chance to pay that back and think about moving forward on a positive note. The next piece is that the city, through conversations, has, really stepped forward, and I know that Mayor Doyle kind of pledged that, no matter what, the city could take care of the money for architect costs. This would be an opportunity with the school subsidy, to take care of that, not have to take money out of the city's coffers. It would be very clean that it's set on the school side, and there would be $300,000 that wouldn't have to go through that transfer process with the city, and it would be funded in our budget. It's there. It would just be a change to the revenue sheet. And then the last two pieces is that we had looked at what is now remaining, and you've got almost $600,000 that would be left, and kind of looking at a situation where we could, we'd have $337,000 remaining, and we would take a situation where we could apply that towards the tax rate, or the city council could take that money and put that into capital reserves. I'm not familiar enough of where the city is on setting the tax rate, and I know that date is probably coming very soon. But we'd be able to come back to the city council and have that discussion about what would be the best use of that fund. City council would have the ability to change the revenue sheet based off that and work with the board and possibly lower the tax burden or put that towards capital reserve, which has been certainly a challenging for our schools.
Any questions for the superintendent? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
I move we accept the updated FY22 School Department Budget Supplement Budget as presented by the superintendent.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, seconded by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. That brings,
Mr. Mayor, from this point forward, I would work with Brian to have a conversation of when we could get to the city council, because like I said, I know your date for setting probably the tax requirement is coming really soon.
okay. Next is item E, a first reading of policies. For several policies, KCB, community involvement in decision-making, JLCB, immunization of students, BCC, nepotism, CC, administrative organization, and CCA, Saco School Department organizational chart. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
excuse me. I move we approve the first reading of policy JLCB, immunization of students, BCC, nepotism, CC, administrative organization, and CCA, Saco School Department organizational chart.
Thank you, School Board Member Johnston. You do realize that you have left out KCB, community involvement in decision-making. Is there a reason?
There is.
Okay.
According to my notes, and perhaps they're erroneous, but according to my notes, I believe we've actually done the first and second reading on that back in probably late May or something like that. Sarah, what do you, Sarah thinks I might be correct
I
about
think
that.
she's correct. I think we had this.
Thank you for the clarification. The superintendent will look into that and make sure that we haven't erred. With that, is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item F, School Construction Committee, and we'll start with the school construction timeline. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, this is a very exciting time for the community as we can begin to think about the school construction process and moving forward with that. And the first two items are really more informational of looking at what are the first steps that need to happen. And currently, right now, we are sitting at step number 4, where you have selected a designer and selected to work with Oak Point. And then the next two pieces will be meeting with the DOE to begin looking at all of the requirements that they will have for us around building a new school, which will be looking at land, looking at grade level configurations, looking at new versus renovations, all of these lists of things, traffic studies. They will say, hey, these are the things we need you guys to do as a community in order to move forward. And then also, from that piece, most importantly, is site selection and review. You have to have a public hearing on those pieces, and for us here, we know that land will be something that will be considered, traffic will be considered, all of those pieces, and we need to get to that point where between 6 and 7, and the State Board of Education site approval is the biggest piece. Site approval includes where it's located and what your grade levels are going to be. Huge piece for the city. In order to do that, if we wanted to have a goal, and again, this would be a quick goal and a quick timeline, to be not looking at this November's election, but for the next November's election to go out to bond. And that probably would be the absolutely quickest possible date. And we would need to make decisions on a timeline as a group, work hard, and do all of those pieces if we want that to happen. And that's, you know, you're looking at like 14 months, 18 months. That's going to be quick. That's going to be hard to meet that. But I think that if we have a group of people who are committed to that building committee, and there will be a lot of subcommittee work, we can at least have that as a strong goal for us as a community. If we hit that timeline, then you might be talking at probably about a 4 to 5 year total process minimum. It's not a quick process. And really that state board and having them site approval, concept approval, and having the money come off, you know, the payment schedules is also the other piece that they look at. So the more organized we can be, the better. Also, when you look at your document, here is the state recommendations on selecting a committee and having a building committee. And there are 3 different types, and it would be my recommendation that you have an ad hoc building committee, most commonly used in Maine schools, members selected by the school board, powers and duties established by the school board, cross-section of the community, they're advisory only, so at the end of the day, the school committee makes those decisions. And once the task is completed, which is a building project, it's disbanded. Now, in most communities, people all want a seat at the table. There's a lot of interest in that, and my recommendation for us is to start with the list that we have tonight of people to be on that, noticing that there are open slots, and also knowing that while the building committee will make the recommendations to the school committee, there are so many other ad hoc or subcommittees that have to occur, with the very first 2 being site and grade level configuration, which should probably be 10 to 12 member committees, with certainly some representation from your building committee on those. And then once those 2 things occur, then you're going to have subcommittees for colors, arrangements, furniture, all of those pieces that in many communities you're looking at typically hundreds of people being involved in some part of the process along the way. But for us, just based off the information that I've had from people who have shared things, talking with the architect, we need to get to site in grade level sooner rather than later.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member LaFortune?
Just a quick question. It's an eye chart, so there's not going to be much that you'll see now, but I'm wondering if, just for the sake of having everybody know how complicated this process is, if we could put this guy on the website somewhere, just to show where
Yep.
number 4 that you mentioned sits in this
Yeah.
in this diagram.
I can put that on the website too, and I think also it might be wise of us to print some of those on big poster boards, like having one here in City Hall hopefully might be an opportunity, or around town, so that people understand that this is not, yeah, you're right, Kevin, this is not a quick process. This is a long haul process, and quite frankly, you're making the decision. What's tough about it is you think about it, you know, even for me, who's got a second grader, and you'd be like, oh, we're getting a new school, maybe they will see that. Realistically, that's not going to happen for my child in Saco, is because the timeline's out too far, and so you're making the school committee and everybody involved is making the decision for really the next 50 to 60 years of the city, and for kids who, depending on their grade makeup, may not even yet be here.
Any further questions? Superintendent Ray, was there a notice put out asking for people to come forward and put their name on for the school construction committee? I understand there's going to be a general school construction committee that's going to provide an overall report to the school board, and then it's going to be the school board's final decision. But was there ever anything put out to the public that said, if you want to be on the school construction committee, please let us know?
So at last meeting, I mentioned that and got a couple of emails, but no, nothing in writing.
And so how was the current selection of the current committee members made?
I had a conversation with the chair of the board, and, you know, we looked at people who are interested, people who have time, people that I think were involved in the process, was it 3 years ago, Kevin? 4 years ago, who had been part of that work that then kind of stalled, and talked to those individuals about it, you know, did they have interest in continuing?
So my experience is similar in that I've also had lots of side conversations with people who've reached out to me with interest in being on the committee as well. So that's the origin of the list, is we essentially put together the set of people that had come to either of us and said, let's, as a starting point, let's put these names on the list to get things moving. And knowing that, as the superintendent mentioned, there's going to be lots of other committees. There's also in the same memo that had all these names in it, the mention that there is going to be opportunity for additional people to be included in this. This is a starting point to get the committees going to begin the process.
But these folks here that have already been named will have the final decision-making that comes before the school board for a final vote that goes to the city council and then goes out to bond, potentially.
Final decision in what?
In the plan that goes to the school board.
No, I don't agree with that. This is to get the process started, and ultimately when the process gets moving and the committees that are the two subcommittees around site plan and grade configuration, with a lot more people that are yet to be named because they haven't come forward, that's when the decision-making will be done that sends something back to the school board that ultimately results in a bond and so on.
No, I understand that the site land selection subcommittee and then grade level configuration subcommittee will be out there. I get that, and those will be 10 to 12-person committees, as Superintendent Ray said. I understand that, but the overall committee that will make the decision in the end to come and present a plan to the school board is made up of the 12 folks that are identified on this sheet prepared by the superintendent. Is that not the case?
That would be the final committee that would make a recommendation to the school committee. Obviously, notes in those other meetings, when they're all in public session, that people could approve. But our hope is that subcommittees are doing the work, pushing that up, and that the building committee is reviewing the work of the subcommittees and moving that forward. You know, as you let's take site land selection. You're going to be asking your site land subcommittee to make a recommendation to the building committee that gets pushed up to final approval by the school committee. So they'll be aware of the process throughout.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Any further questions? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Preble?
I move we accept the recommendation for the establishment of an ad hoc building committee as presented by the superintendent.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Preble. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Richard. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif? Yes. School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item G, School Committee Meeting Calendar for 2021-2022. Superintendent Ray, would you like to say anything on that?
Yes, just a second, please. So in your calendar is in your packet is the yearly calendar for school committee meetings. As you can see that the second meeting every month would be at 5 o'clock, with the first meeting every month being at 7 o'clock. We also have dates where Finance Committee and Policy Committee would fit into that meeting schedule. In addition, I reached out to Brian today and trying to have some conversations. We have some joint meetings with the City Council that we'd like to, try to get on the calendar and denote which meetings those would be, because I believe it's September, December, and then once a month during the budget process, if I'm correct in that. And so trying to get those, at least for the first part of the year, nailed down, and then when the budget comes, we know that can be just a revolving door of meetings that we'd have. So this would be a calendar for that. And then I think that Mayor Doyle had said that when we've changed times in the past, she said the committee had voted on those, so I'd be looking for some sort of approval tonight.
Mr. Superintendent, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you tell me where in this calendar we fit infrastructure committee?
Well, that's a good question. And the reason for that is because the infrastructure committee, number one, probably will be spending a whole lot of time just working on a new school. So those meetings are going to be throughout the time, all the time. And then, again, when I think about an infrastructure committee, I also think about, and I've had this conversation with Kevin about standing committees and looking at that, is that typically anything that happens with infrastructure usually involves finance. And so it seems a bit duplicative to me that you would have possibly a building construction, as we put some money into, hopefully look at a roof. And then the infrastructure, we know that's going to happen, and then a lot of the same faces are going to talk about it there, and then talk about it in a finance committee meeting, because you need money for a roof. And so I think those are some of the pieces that we need to look at throughout the process of just making sure that we line up. And there's 7 of you that put in a lot of time, and my short time here, I think there are some duplicated efforts that we have, and we need to look at that piece a
Okay,
little bit.
great, thank you.
Just a quick,
School Board Member
so
LaFortune.
it's a quick somewhat follow-up, but is also somewhat off topic. So earlier you had mentioned MSMA reviews of existing policies, and I know that the conversation that we had, part of that involved looking at that particular policy around committees and noticing that it hasn't been updated in quite a while.
Yep.
A couple of years, and it's also different than the configurations of a lot of other communities around the state that have a more recent version of that. So that's probably part of the origin of how Jeremy's laid out which committees fit where, is ultimately resulting from, that policy review may result in some different committees, or some committees that we have being named differently than they are now.
Correct.
Any further questions? School Board Member Johnston.
So I think what comes to mind for me is that often, granted, this is a more, say, structured calendar than we have sometimes had in the past. Some committees have met more frequently than others anyway, but what comes to mind for me is that the possibility of needing to reschedule some of these meetings due to anything from weather to, some other priority, it's just something I want to keep in mind, that's all, because that certainly has happened in the past. So just a thought to throw out.
Yes, certainly we'd be, obviously a school committee meeting, you'd reschedule, possibly on that, depending on, when we hit December, that date's a little close to, the vacation week and whatnot. But I think this is about allowing the school committee, there have been some requests to really get a calendar out there, look at those pieces, look at your use of time. I think when I looked at some of the meeting schedule when I first came here, some of you guys were at a meeting 4 nights in a row on certain topics and trying to use our time a little bit more wisely and effectively and have greater participation from, the ability for our principals and our staff not to be at 4 different things in a row. And this will give us a start. And again, I suspect there will be a lot of dates filled in around this that have the subject of school construction on that. And we really need to focus on that task.
Any further questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Preble.
I move we accept the school committee meeting calendar for 2021-2022 as presented.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Preble. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. There is no executive session for this evening. Brings us to item 14. Is there a motion to adjourn?
What?
A was new hires. Superintendent Ray, was there something missing out of new hires?
I don't think there was.
Okay. We'll have to deal with it at the next meeting.
We did have a sheet on it.
Transfers don't have to be voted on. It's a transfer in position, so it's an appointment. Okay.
We will have it fixed at the next meeting. We are beyond item A. We are now at adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
School Board Member LaFortune, is there a second? Second by School Board Member Johnston. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Tardif.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening and be well.